Hi guys, welcome back to the channel and another track guide. And I know what you're thinking, it's already done one on Silverstone, but everyone who's watched that one, or virtually everyone, has cried out for a GT3 version. So here we are. I've listened to the masses, and we're in the GT3 Lexus, and we're in hot conditions this time, because the last one was in pretty cool ones. So we're up at the 33-degree track temperature, and we're going to dive right in. The setup for this will be available on SetSpace. I'll put the link below in the description, so go and grab it and let me know in the comments how you get on. And if you're not subscribed, press the button, because we're in for a treat here. So coming into the first corner, obviously one of the most important corners on the track. It's such high speed, and you've got this 50-meter board on the left hand side to just let you know where you are on the track. So you're braking just before this. This corner is all about carrying as much speed as possible and not braking too much. There's only so much acceleration you can do. You're apexing at 110 miles an hour here, and I've just stopped it because look how early I'm on the power. I'm on the power far before the apex here, using the diff of the car to rotate the back, and you can run really wide here. As long as your right hand wheels are on the curb, you're absolutely fine. Bring it over to the right hand side, turn in roughly where that sign is, and I'm going to pause it here again because a lot of people find it strange that I bring the car all the way over to the left hand side of the track here, and I can't understand why you wouldn't do it. So I'm pausing here. This is my turn in point. It opens up the track really nicely into Maggots and Beckett's, and you'll be carrying as much speed as you can within reason through this right hander. We're going to be braking in a straight line. Look how as soon as I straighten the steering up, I'm on the brakes, down into third gear, and you're going to keep it as tight as possible around this next one. It's all about learning where to use the speed and where to scrub off speed here. Earlier on the power, again, you can see I'm completely off the power right now, but a little squirt, and as soon as I change direction again, I just a little dab of brakes to get the weight on the front, and then turn in, and away you go nice and early on the power down, hanger straight. So whistle stop tour. Let's just take a minute and watch that again, because it's really difficult to explain what's going on through the first corner. Braking just before the 50, off the power, nice and early, back on the power before the apex, run it out wide, carrying as much speed as possible, don't brake too much. All about maintaining the speed through this first left and then right hander, then bringing the speed down as you come into the left hander here, hook up on the curb on the inside, get to the middle of the track, and you've got a lot of curb on the inside again you can use as long as you're on that power nice and early, and lots of room on the left hand side to run out over. It seems simple when you talk about it, but it's all about momentum, and so let's watch it again from above, looking for the sign. Early on the power, you're actually apex. You can go over that curb more than I did if you've got a car that's really well set up for the curb, or you can avoid it completely. Here's this really fast section, so we're still full power until just as we're turning into the right hander, and then we're scrubbing off a lot of speed for the first left hander, and then we're carrying and accelerating back out through onto the straight. There's a lot of room on the runoff on the left hand side there, more than you think there's going to be, so use it. Okay. Under the bridge, down hanger straight, coming into Stowe, which is a notoriously difficult corner, one I struggle with myself. You're faced with this huge open braking zone, and actually a lot of people think you brake at the start of the curb on the left hand side, but I guarantee you will go wide if you do that. So I've just put this little blue spot here just as a bit of a zone before that curb. Depending on what fuel level and car you're in, you need to be braking in that zone to give you a lot of time to get the nose into this corner, because I think a lot of people go too wide and carry too much speed through here. So you can see there's this period where I'm just using the throttle just to adjust the car. The nose is really tight on the inside, and you can run it all the way outside over this curb. Again, you can actually go wider than I have here, so if you put the power down slightly too early, that's absolutely fine. You've got a lot of run up to do. Again, pretty standard braking point just before the beginning of this curb on the right hand side, depending on what conditions you're in. If it's really cold, you might be able to brake a bit later here, and we're going to be making sure we keep the car nice and stable. If it does seem to get a little bit squirmy under braking, either shift your brake balance or use the throttle to stabilize it a little bit. Nice and early again, just on that little bit of power. Watch my braking here. As I start to turn, I'm coming off the brake. Okay, so a little bit of power, and then turn in a little bit later than you think you can. You can bump over that curb on the inside in GT4 and some of the GT3 cars, but I like to go a little bit later and get a smoother exit down, because what is essentially is straight for the next sort of 10-12 seconds or so. So turn in later than you think you should, nice and smooth over the curb, that sort of building of the throttle so the car doesn't slip from underneath you as you'll lose momentum all the way down this section of the track. So let's just take a breather, because we've gone through an incredibly fast section. We've gone down the straight, a really fast corner, and that was the first sort of slow corner that the cars come to. You can see that the front left is starting to scream out because it's a little bit too warm. It's just a mindset change, and we've got to carry that on. We're back up to fast corners through here. Use the curbing on the left hand side just after the grass ends. You can actually go all the way over that and fling back across to the right hand side of the track. But two ways of taking it: either lift off a little bit earlier, keep it in 5th gear or whatever gear you're in at the time, or brake slightly, drop it into 4th gear and then floor it earlier just as you go over the apex. Back into 5th, flick to the left hand side. You can use a little bit of grass if you have to on the inside, and now you're faced with this decision, this open braking zone, depending on how you've gone through the two corners before. So I've put that blue bar up as a sort of zone before the curbing on the left hand side, because a lot of people overshoot this corner, and you want to be in or around the start of the curbing on the left as a braking zone. Keeping the car nice and stable again, just slowly turning in down into 1st gear, half throttle. You can go quite wide, bring it back over to the middle of the track. And I know what you're going to say: how do you know when to turn in? Because you can't see the apex. And that's the same on this Lexus, in the Lamborghini, in a couple of GT4 cars, a Camaro I'm thinking of, and I agree, it is a nightmare. So I'm pausing it here so you get a bit of a picture of when I start to brake and start to turn in gently. And obviously you're trying to apex just a little bit later than you think you should. You can get vision of that curb a little bit earlier than you think you can, and as soon as you can, it's sort of 2/3 throttle and then full throttle straight away to get that maximum acceleration down the straight. Again, let's have another look at that, because it's a big section. So let's look at it in car again and try and break it down. So before the curb on the left hand side, get the nose in. Use the throttle to adjust the car on the track where you are. You can run a little bit wider than I did there, carry a bit more speed. It's absolutely fine. Braking before the right hand side of the curb. Trail braking, so you're coming off the throttle nicely. And then flicking back over to the right hand side of the track. Smooth acceleration on exit, keeping this flat and nice and tight through here. If you run wide, you lose a surprising amount of time. A little bit of a breather. Use the grass on the left hand side as a point to turn in. Flick it down the gear. As soon as you're over the apex, floor it again and hope. Bring it and turn in a little bit earlier than you think you need to for the left-hander, using that zone just before the curbing as a braking marker. Nice and smooth on the power, just making sure the back end doesn't pull out. Get vision of that curb as soon as you can if you're in a car like this where you can't, and away nice and easy on the power. But you need to get up to full power very quickly. But that initial acceleration, you need to just make sure you've got the traction. Let's look at it from above again. I know you guys really like this view. It's quite helpful to see. You can actually go wider a little bit earlier than I did there, if that makes sense. So you've got a lot more room than I used, which is unfortunate. That trail braking through here, coming off the brake as you start to turn in more, and that later apex through that right hand is really key to get a good strong exit through this flat right hand corner, inverted commas, across the new start finish line into what would have been an awesome section, but I don't really particularly like this new right-hander into Farmer Village. Turn in earlier than you think you need to on this left-hander. Use the start of that curb, braking nice and smooth. Again, coming off the brake nice and smoothly, nice and early. Again, not actually braking full power into this left-hander. It's more of a 2/3, 3/4 percentage-wise of braking, which enables you to still turn, but you've got the weight of the car on the front. Again, so coming down the back straight under the bridge, you've got two really tricky corners coming up. So you're faced with this sign, and everyone thinks, again, oh, let's brake on the sign. It must be there for a reason. Well, it's not. So brake before it. Brake nice and smooth, and you're going to be turning, you're going to be diving into the inside of this corner slightly more than you usually would. So when you're braking, quite hard to begin with, and then we're going to be coming off and off the brake and trail braking really nicely to keep the weight on the front of the car. You can see there at the bottom right, I've got sort of maybe 15%. Now I've only got a G90 920 pedal, so I can't really tell too much. And then you're off the throttle completely. You should be able to tell where the car is going to go, and you're aiming for that blue spot on the apex. As soon as you're there, it's full power, quick blip. Now you must stay on the inside. A lot of people like to take a wide line here, but your right hand front tyre needs to be somewhere near that blue spot. I actually turned it a little bit too early on this lap, so I do apologise for that, but you get the picture. Down into first gear, really get that nose in. You can short shift back up a gear if you need to. A lot of cars is first through there, but I know in this Lexus and the McLaren it's short shift into second, and there's a lot of room on the exit. I actually used too much because I turned in slightly too early. but it's a really powerful tool to run wider there to get that exit down the start finish straight. So again, before that sign, trail braking nicely, off the throttle. You should know roughly where the car's going to be to get that later apex. Stay nice and tight through the final corner. You can go a little bit wider than that, don't get me wrong, but I really like to keep it nice and tight there. It stops you obviously being overtaken and practicing overtaking through that corner. And away you go on the start finish straight. So let's look at it again in car, and then I'll play the entire lap for you guys again. So this last corner, really on the inside. I brake it just a touch too early, but that short shift into second, make sure you're nice and smooth on the power, opening the steering out nicely. I use a little bit too much room. It doesn't slow me down too much because I've gained that momentum. So there we have it. There's a lap of Silverstone in the Lexus. What I'll do is I'll leave this to play fully through for you, and do remember to subscribe if you're not already. You know, we're close to 1,000 subscribers. We're up at sort of 870 odd when I release this. We're really pushing for that 1,000. It's a really key milestone for me, and it just keeps that motivation to keep going through a lot of these track guides. As I said, the setup is going to be on setspace.com. I'll put the link in the description below where you can grab this and go and have a go, and let me know how you get on in the comments. I'm really interested to see how you find the setup, as it's quite a neutral one. It's relatively easy to drive. I think it's quite a good one actually, and yeah, let me know how you get on, and I'll see you in the next one, guys. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. See ya. Bye.